And, okay, so I basically read one book that does not make me an expert on how to face Christian nationalism, but I'm gonna tell you about what I've read and what I've learned. The first thing we want to do is figure out what Christian nationalism actually is. Okay, so in typical teacher fashion, I do admit that I didn't get to my car, otherwise I would have more writing instruments for all of you. I don't know if I can find, oh, there are more writing, okay. So here are the, I'm gonna put some index cards on this side of the table and some index cards over here, and I'm hoping you guys will share. And we go get those pens. See, they moved me. I would rather have it all set up. They take me to a different room because council needs a bigger room apparently. So there's some writing utensils if people need them. And I'd like each of you to take an index card so you can pass those around. And I'd like you to write on your index card if you can, or if you don't want to, you can just remember in your head. What you think Christian nationalism is. You had to define. If I said to you, what is Christian nationalism? And let's say that you're in my classroom and it's a pop quiz, and you have to define Christian nationalism. What would you write down?
You're one of those teachers, huh?
I am.
Pop quiz, so.
Pop quiz, yeah. So, but I also happen to be a very easy grader.
Oh, that's.
Don't worry about that, right? Whatever you happen to know, it is also okay to say, I really just don't know. Okay, it is okay to say, I don't know. But ideally, I'd like you to write something on an index card, and keep in your head. What you
I will
think
tell you my
nationalism
disaster.
is.
No, I know.
When if we have to go up, that's what's happening. There's nobody sending that Zoom video. So we'll get them.
Okay. Are you moving to record it?
I have recorded.
Okay, first somewhere that's just.
It's been on.
Okay. So maybe we'll just hold it a few minutes and if you don't have anyone done.
We had Carrie television. Could not. So
Find him, I'm sorry. I
Even the
have to
magic
track them.
that-
He might have already left. I don't know.
and
If we write what Christian nationalism is not,
That would work for me. Did you hear that part of the sermon where you're not supposed to do that? Please help yourself. Yes, there's a, oh, I think we can have something in here, so, okay. I'm gonna bring this over here. Okay. Amy, did you get one of these? I didn't. No, you need to show me one too. Okay. So we're writing down what we think Christian nationalism is. Oh, look, Manny, I'm so glad they found you. We need more chairs. We'll grab more chairs.
I'm supposed to save a seat for D, so.
Okay, so we'll get another chair for that. Thank you.
more chairs here.
So when you get settled in, which is always a little tricky, and this is, as Tom says, this might be a good problem to have. I might start running out of these, which would be lovely. But I don't think you need to share,
Are
right?
you going to sit sometimes?
No, I probably just keep walking around.
Yeah.
But thank you. Okay. All right.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Still a place up again. Did you want this chair?
No, that's
No.
Okay. So, the assignment is to write down what you think Christian nationalism is. Oh, yeah, I think we're good. And there's some index cards here if you want that. There's index cards. Okay. So you're gonna write down what Christian nationalism is, and then I'm only gonna give you a little bit longer for that one, while we're letting everybody's math in. And one of the reasons why I gave you the index cards is we may decide to take your definition and merge it into some other definition, so that we have the cards and we can move them around. But if you just write on your paper, that's okay too. All right, and then after you're done writing with the index cards, I'd like you to form a group of 3 to 4. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think it's gonna be better like this way.
Then
see their faces.
13,
This is.
15, 14. Okay, so anywhere between 3 and 4 people would be nice. And I want you to share with each other what you think the definition is. Okay, so introduce yourselves to each other. You're gonna get into groups of 3 or 4, and you're gonna share with each other what you think the definition of Christian nationalism is. All right, well, let's take the first, I'm looking at some of the looks on your faces, and I'm wondering, how many of you are gonna be telling me, I have no idea what it is?
This one here.
Okay, some people are gonna tell me that, okay, but take a guess, pretend it's a pop quiz. I promise I won't grade you. Take a guess and tell me what you think. Tell me what you think Christian nationalism is, and what we're gonna do afterwards, after you've written on the card. Or something, we're gonna get together in groups of 3 or 4, so that you can maybe learn from each other what each other thinks. And then, hopefully, you will decide which definition you as the group like, and you will make sure that I get that definition. Okay, so. We're gonna start with how many of you are ready to move on to groups? Okay. All right, so find yourselves a group of 3 or 4. You may move around the room, you may also just do something close. And talk with each other about what you think, and how many, do we have anybody online? 1 person online, okay.
And Amy's checking with him, it's Brett.
Okay.
She's checking to see if he's gonna be.
Since they could use one of those people. Well, I think it's a.
It's probably a group of 2.
Two is fine.
I'll join you.
Yeah.
Intolerable Christian. So, you're right. All witness
Yeah, it's fine. So I think what you do, I look at it. It's someone there. What? Sure. Behind religion. And yeah.
That's like, so there's a conversation, but like, that's one of the things. But nation should be in touch with some of these. Right. So what it could, we should have the, not be really something on the way.
But I also think.
Like, of course.
Foundation of the nation, you know, we spend all day.
Oh, yes, definitely, I'll give you a link.
That's sort of. Yeah, so it's kind of what it is, the right side of the ground. Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of like.
You know.
Also, somebody's.
I'm not sure. Like. Believe.
That's a step, I think.
Right.
You just don't kind of. I don't think it is.
Minute warning. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, I gotta stop you.
Not any others. And not any others.
Okay, I gotta stop you guys. All right, now your next job, this is an easier job, I hope,
Right.
is to decide who's going to speak for the group and hand me a short index card on what your group thinks the definition is. Is that gonna be hard, or is that harder? Is that harder?
I thought you said you were gonna give us.
I thought it was easier, but this
Was
is
not
gonna
an
be a
answer.
lot as a math teacher that I think something is easier and the kids just look at me and go, what?
Come on.
So, you know, if you can have a spokesperson to tell us your definition, that would be great. You can kind of consolidate the definitions if you want. You can pick one definition if you want, someone who you think has the best take on it. Whatever you want, but you've got about 2 or 3 minutes to decide what your group is going to say.
You're right, like crazy.
Yeah, this one is easy for you guys, right?
I can tell you, yeah.
Okay, there's our spokesman. All in favor?
Wait, let me,
All in favor?
read to you guys, I'll read to you first, what, right.
All right. I won't, I guess, I think it's great.
I have a genetic disorder called essential tremor, so I don't.
Okay, so now, next step,
I can't,
okay,
my writing.
are you guys ready? Is there anyone that needs more time? Okay, I'm gonna start with this group that told me my assignment was easy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they did, they said the assignment was easy, so I'm gonna let them talk first. Okay, is everybody ready?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
All right, when you do talk, please tell us your name and then what you guys think the definition is, maybe both names. That way we can all kind of say.
Yeah, I'm one of the Carols.
The wife's birthday.
My sister,
That's later.
it's very easy to remember.
All right, so Bill, are you talking or is Carol talking for you?
I am
Okay,
talking, so, for both, well, for us, right, for Bill and Carol. We both felt that I guess I'll summarize it as maybe a smokescreen or to promote both, and I said hatred, Carol mentioned political agendas, so it's a combination of both. I think that it's a movement that is a smokescreen to promote hatred and or political agendas. So, and I don't think, everybody agrees with it all, and that's what we're here for, right? We're trying to figure out how can we be spiritual and religious in light of this so-called movement that's promoting, they're not promoting religion, they're hiding behind religion to promote their own personal agendas. So, I think if I summarize that, Carol.
Oh, that's
I
perfect.
think
that's great, okay.
So,
So let's go to this big group over here, because I bet you they're kind of sitting there going, how do we get this one definition? So who's my spokesperson for this group?
I can do it.
You're doing it very gay, okay.
And it's got it all on one side of the car.
Oh, even better, okay. Did you guys have a card or did you just kind of talk it out?
Well, I mean, we both have our individual cards. but-
Hand me both cards too, that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, just because we have a 2-session thing going on. This session
Yeah.
is working and, next session is gonna be in late June. So Manny, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you might not know all the members of your group, so let's go around and get your names. Can you all say your names for us?
Ron.
Mary Kay,
Manny,
Nancy.
Great, okay, now Manny, it's your turn.
I put, the belief that fundamentalist Christianity should control all aspects of life, including all social and political life and governance, resulting in a hierarchy of groups of people where cis white men are uplifted above minority groups, such as people of color, women, and the LGBT.
Yeah, I knew you all were gonna be A students. Good job, Manny. Okay, how about this group? Do we have a spokesperson for this group?
Well, we haven't really got it together. We had some interesting thoughts. So this is kind of what we've got. A religion that is politicized to fit the agenda of a political agenda. And it is defined rigidly and it is exclusive, not inclusive, and is not based on the teachings of Jesus.
All right, may I have that card? Thank you. Manny, do you have a card?
Yeah.
Try to combine
Okay.
everybody.
Okay, so now we have another group that is over here, right?
Yeah.
And can you tell me your names and then give me a spokesperson? Done. Okay,
Richard. Bill, just plain Bill. Ruben,
okay.
and I'm the spokesperson. for
Thank
this.
you, Ruben, for being the spokesperson.
And what we came up with was the belief or ideology that the laws, policies, and institutions of the nation state should be established based only on Christian principles and values. And we could add like as interpreted by a conservative minority.
Right.
But yeah.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
that's important. I think that's important. I think that's, we forgot to do that, as interpreted by a conservative majority.
Minority, yeah.
Excuse me, could you read it once more a little slower because I missed the adjective in front of the word values at the very end.
Yeah, so the belief or ideology that the laws, policies, and institutions of the nation state should be established based only on Christian principles and values, as interpreted by a conservative Christian minority.
Thank you.
All right,
Because of course, the principles and values, Christian principles and values can be interpreted in many different ways by many different groups.
okay, now is there anybody that doesn't feel representative? Amy, you didn't get a chance to, because you were running around, did you have
Yeah.
anything you wanted to add to Christian nationalism or you feel?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
So everybody feels like they've had a chance to sort of talk about what they think it is. I knew you would all do well, okay? I knew that you would be able to get the definition out just as well as I could. I am gonna talk to you for a little bit, and then we're gonna go back to groups again. Because obviously we need to spend time connecting, that's part of what the goal of adult education in our church is to give us all a chance to get to know each other and to connect better. So we will go back to groups, but for a while I'm gonna lecture. Which I don't normally do, but every now and then the math teacher has to take over the reins because not everybody knows everything the math teacher knows. And I have read this book, so hopefully I know a little more. I don't know for sure. It sounds like some of you know more than I do, but that works. There are kids that always calculate faster than I do. Okay, so we defined Christian nationalism. I think we did a really good job of it. It's the idea that, hey, this whole country should just be operating on Christian morals and values. And it's not necessarily defined on whose Christian morals and values they're going with. They say Christian, but I bet you that they don't have an entire group of Christianity who agree with it. And one of the things that I think we've learned as we have dealt with more oppressed groups and have talked about groups that are oppressed is that if you do have privilege, you need to use your privilege for good. So we have the privilege of being Christian. Our holidays show up as vacation days in school. We're usually convinced that our holidays will be a day off with the kids and that we will not have to ask for permission. There are other things that's one of the minor problems, right? So we have some privilege because we are Christians, so we do need to speak out. And the voices of the people who want Christian nationalism are awfully loud. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. So I am going to start with saying that I know I'm preaching to the choir. Okay? I absolutely expect that most of you have chosen this church to get away from judgmental and non-inclusive thinking. Okay? I am not sitting here expecting to argue with people about whether or not we should let Christian nationalism be a thing. If somehow you are leaning more toward the side of Christian nationalism, I apologize because I do want to be inclusive. But I'm at this moment assuming that most of you are here because you would like to figure out how to talk to other Christians in a way that will help us end Christian nationalism. If that's not the case, please listen. And maybe you will learn things, maybe you can tell us things, but that's what I'm assuming is happening. And so I wanted to be upfront and say that. So the good news is that there was a Pew Research group that did a extensive poll in 2022. And they found that over half the people in the United States had never heard of Christian nationalism. But that anyone who had heard about it, even a little bit, was 5 times as likely to disapprove of it. Okay, so there's a sign of hope here. It's not, you can't count the loudest people as being the statistically right. Okay, that can't happen. That isn't the way statistics works. If someone is louder, that doesn't make them more of a statistic or a better statistic. We purposely in statistics have it set up so that you don't just get to stand in a mall and ask people who are in the mall if they like shopping. Okay, that doesn't work because that is that's a biased sample. So these people went out and got an unbiased sample and found that statistically, if they knew what Christian nationalism was, they wouldn't like it. Okay, so that's the hope. We're going to start with the Christian myth. And I'm hoping that with some of these myths and information that I'm giving you, that you will have information that will help you answer questions from other people. Next time, when we do the next session, we're going to spend a lot more with role playing and figuring out how do you talk to your neighbor or your father-in-law in my case, who really believes that our nation should be Christian and wants to support the people that think our nation should be completely Christian, and why would you want any other set of values in a country? Okay, so these are some of the things you can say. The Christian myth, first of all, is that we were meant to be a Christian nation. Okay, so the myth begins with an idea that North America was discovered by Europeans, ignoring indigenous people whose culture and religion were all very highly developed long before any Europeans showed up. Our Kids in Godly Play learn in their Tell Me the Truth About Racism curriculum that the popes told Europeans through the doctrine of discovery that they should seize lands that were inhabited by people who were not Christian. So anyone who tells you that, you know, America it was originally Christian and was decided to be that way, the indigenous people who lived here certainly did not think that that was the case. Okay, so I get a little further along in history. I hope you'll all forgive me. I am going to lump the Puritans and the Pilgrims into the same group. They're not exactly the same. I did look up the difference, but
I just want to add that it wasn't just the Pope. Columbus got funding for his work by saying to the Queen of Spain,
yep.
I will conquer this land and bring you all these people that we can convert to your religion. That's how he got his funding.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of history going on with that, and what's really wonderful about the Godly Play curriculum is that I've been lucky to be able to sit while one is being talked about, and the curriculum is gorgeous. It looks just like Godly Play. There's all these beautiful little pieces that people are showing the kids so that they can see it, and they're really telling the true history of why racism is in our country. Okay, so, I hope you'll all forgive me for lumping the Puritans and the Pilgrims all together. There is a difference, but I don't want to deal with it right now. The Puritans and the Pilgrims, who are our denomination's foreparents, are glorified for their quest for religious freedom in the New World. Does anyone know why that is in quotes? Why have I put New World in quotes?
Because the old world was Europe.
Yeah, the old world was Europe, and they said the New World was,
America.
yeah, the indigenous people. Did the indigenous people think it was a new world?
No way.
No. We are saying New World from a European perspective. Okay, they've been here the whole time. So this adoration that we have for them ignores that they religiously persecuted the indigenous people as well as any people who arrived later that didn't follow their strict doctrines. They wanted freedom for themselves, but a lot of them weren't willing to give it to anybody else. And we're very lucky that our church has grown and evolved since then. But even the UCC has a history that we need to be aware of. The Constitution itself does not support Christian nationalism. The terms Christian and Christianity appear nowhere in the Constitution. Actually, I think I forgot to tell you guys what book I read, because I even wanted to bring it to show you, but I read How to End Christian Nationalism by Amanda Tyler, and that's on the first page. I strongly recommend it as a book. There is no way that I'm going to be able to give you everything I read. And if you are incredibly interested in this subject, please go read her book. She's very well spoken, and it's a good read. And it's not. There were moments when I was reading it that it made me depressed and sad, but there were other moments where it was giving me a lot of options. Okay, so anyway, we're going back to the Constitution. Terms Christian and Christianity appear nowhere in our Constitution. The only reference to religion appears in Article 6. No religious test shall ever be required as qualification for any office or public trust under the United States. So, at the time the Constitution was written, most of the existing state constitutions or colonial charters included some religious test for holding public office. Sometimes it was, hey, do you believe in the Trinity? Sometimes it was based on church attendance. I wouldn't necessarily be allowed to do a lot of things. If they're gonna use attendance as the way of judging people, I'm totally out, right? So the framers of the Constitution, okay, so where was I? I was on this part about so most of the state constitutions or colonial charters included some religious tests for holding public office. In 1787, many believed that the government should and could enforce morality by requiring church attendance. Okay, there were many people who believed this. The states had already ratified some stuff on it, okay? But what I can honestly tell you is the framers of the Constitution knew when they wrote and ratified Article 6 that they could have someone other than a Protestant Christian hold office. There were Jewish people in the colonies.
Catholics.
There were Catholics in the colonies, and the Protestants and the Catholics were really angry at each other back then. Right? And the people who wrote the Constitution were still making sure that there wouldn't be discrimination as best as they could. They could have, okay, so they realized that our country had and would have people who follow a diversity of religions. Now, according to Amanda Tyler, one of the reasons why I like her so much, she said when Article 6 was ratified, Those who wanted a Christian nation lost the debate. So if one of your neighbors comes up to you and says, the nation was meant to be Christian, I've just given you a bunch of information that you can use, okay? I will tell you that I'm reading another book. I don't know if I will be bringing it up in our lessons. But it is very hard to convince somebody of moral judgments and values with just your brain. If you just appeal to their rational and their logical centers of their life, you're not gonna win. I've been reading somebody else who's been talking about how, well, the brain may be the kind of the rider, but there's this elephant that is basically the emotions and the instincts that you have when you are asked a moral question, and most of us do not respond to the moral question completely with a rational brain. So even though I'm giving you all these lovely rational bits to share, you still may have trouble. That's why I'm hoping Todd next in June will have more help on how do you handle it from an emotional perspective. How do you handle it from a values perspective? So the other myth that you're often going to be running up against is that Christian nationalism will make the number of Christians in our country grow. You're Christian. Don't you want everybody to be Christian? Don't you want there to be a lot of Christians in our country? Christians are so great, right? So the argument is that Christian nationalism will make the number of Christians in our country grow. No, that isn't true either. The statisticians have been working on it. It isn't even good for the Christian nationalists to make this happen, okay? If what they truly want is for Christianity to grow, then they're not actually making it easier on themselves, okay? Because there was this lovely study done by Dr. Dan Coeb, and I apologize about this. I was too lazy to actually type it out myself. It's a very long quote. And I don't know if I have the one, I don't think I kept the one that had it in better things. So, but let me to basically tell you what happened in the study. Dr. Dan Coeb did a study through 174 countries. Okay, and it was a decades-long study. And what he decided to do is to figure out what happens if a state decides on a religion. If a state honors one religion more than any other religion. And by state, my husband pointed out, I need to tell you, I mean country.
Yeah.
And what actually they found out was that if you were in a state that had the dominant religion of the state, preferentially funded and, you know, laws being made up all based on it and everything, that the religion of the dominant religion will decrease by 3.4% on average. Okay. But that if you were in a country, share the population belonging to the most popular, if you didn't make it a state religion, the popular religion would have grown by 13%. So even if you decide, hey, this country is going to be a Christian country, stats show you aren't going to actually increase the number of Christians in your country. Okay. So even if you're sitting there thinking, you know, but the values of Christianity are so wonderful, I wish everybody had them, and I really want more Christians in the country, it won't do you any good to actually make it a state religion, because the statistics show over 174 countries with different religions, not just Christianity, but different religions, that the number of people in the dominant religion will go down if you make it honored by the state. Okay. So that was that part. Okay, so the danger of Christian nationalism. How am I doing on time? Anyone know what time it is?
11:30. And
All right, so I'm gonna make this a little shorter because I do really want to get to the discussion questions. The danger of Christian nationalism is probably the most scary danger, is that there's a lot of violence with people who think that the country should be all Christian. There have been a lot of shootings that can be traced back to Christian nationalists. Specifically, the one in Buffalo, that's near my hometown. That shooting was done by someone who was posting white supremacy information, Christian nationalism is that, said that he was Christian nationalist in all of his Facebook stuff and things like that. And there's another wonderful author that I didn't get a chance to read her book, but she's written White Evangelical Racism, and she says that throughout history of our country, slavery, internment, forced resettlement on reservations, all those things had Christian connotation. Christian nationalism is an old thing. Okay, they made it, this might be a new term, but it goes back. And it is really, she says that Christian nationalism isn't a cover for white supremacy, as it is basically a signpost on the door. Okay, so any of you in your groups who have mentioned that it's racist or hatred based, yeah, you've got a point. And that's dangerous, and we all don't need to discuss why it's dangerous, it just is. Bishop Michael Curry of the Episcopal Church offers us 3 steps to confront Christian nationalism. We're going to do some of them today, some of them next session. Recentering Christianity on the teachings and the example of Jesus. Calling on our common humanity. And rebuilding relationships between people across political, racial, and religious differences. We're going to get a chance to interact with Alana's church, the Visions of Hope people. They're going to come and we're going to get a chance to interact with them and get to know them as friends. I think work like this, there's another program that was in the book called Shoulder to Shoulder, where you try to get yourself around people who don't look like you, think like you. All that kind of stuff is a way that you are actually personally fighting Christian nationalism by learning more about people who don't fit their ideals. So our discussion, now you get to go back into groups, right? Because listening to me is not as much fun as talking to each other. So my first question for your group, and I think I would like you to change your groups. So in order to do this, no, you don't want to change? Too hard?
Connected here.
You know what? I am a teacher that will listen to my students, so you may stay in the same groups.
Not leaving you.
All right, all right. I'm fine with that. In your group, how does Christian nationalism distort the teachings of Jesus? And that's the first discussion question that you see here. And as you know, this pamphlet is yours to take home so that if if there's some things that I didn't mention or highlight, you can find some stuff in there that I didn't cover. Or that you don't remember. So how does it distort the teachings of Jesus? And this is the part I really want you to do. I want you to brainstorm with each other about what stories, verses, or general values of Christianity are in direct conflict with Christian nationalism. Where have we learned in the Bible or in the way that our church talks to us? The way that Todd speaks from the pulpit, or the way that we talk to each other. What kinds of Christian values are right in the way of Christian nationalism?
Values and behaviors are different things.
I'm okay with any, as you can see, I'm guessing that behavior would be violence. We would say there's a lot against violence, right? So yeah, you're right. There could be, yeah, it's an open question. Talk with each other about what Bible stories or verses or things that you remember from being a member of our church or from being a member of a church when you were growing up. They're in direct conflict with Christian nationalism. How does Christian nationalism distort those teachings of Jesus? What are they doing that Jesus wouldn't approve of? And why? And if you can come up with some good Bible and verse, that, book and verse or whatever that thing is called, great. If you just want to say stories or, something that was in your head, that's fine too. We're not looking for terribly specific, but we want you to get a chance to talk about that.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'll let you guys talk.
I don't know if this is helping it.
My concern, whatever state it's in now, will be on Sunday.
On the bottom.
Well, I'm gonna email John. I said, I need
If I was thinking, oh, every time, but I don't want to do it.
If the recording's finished, you can try. But I think the things that we are. The one inside and the lock it never would come up. It was asking for a pairing code to Zoom. So it wasn't connecting to Zoom. Normally, it's sort of what happened. So that was the source. That's why I tried to because it was trying to connect the line. It wasn't. Those started.
So, what we call it.
And the video was on Instagram like.
And that story, somebody striking you.
She just said.
Well, actually, it wasn't.
Without Abrams, you can't use it. So, but I did think that.
A good neighbor. It was.
There was no time.
Tried to make it.
That's one of the determined.
But not knowing. Now, the last time.
Part of that.
Ran through.
Okay, well, let me know, I guess, or just tag me in the email. I do know that it's gonna do it again on next.
If there's something missing, wrong in there.
People let them, you're trying.
There's love, and that's and vows to the other way.
Right.
And then that come back to right across the line. You're actually wrong.
Yeah.
Plug it back.
True love really shows up.
I did the thing here. And then talk. Like doing this.
I know, I just thought we were so far beyond.
And when she automatically, somebody changes something. You have a life, right?
Not only.
Let me know.
Thanks for coming in.
I have only had one conversation with brother about one conversation about evolution. I will never have one that statement.
Go very well, that's right.
Somebody.
Well, it's something,
Do we have anybody online?
That's it.
Do we have anybody online?
Brett and Gail Clark were logged in. I don't know if it's Brett's cell phone or Gail's at home and turned on their computer and just left it on.
But they're not sitting here
They hadn't
telling,
used it.
right,
Yeah.
we don't
I'm not
have to
kidding.
like,
She asked me what wanted to do any of it. So yeah.
okay, okay.
My feeling is usually the other end.
Well, it's nice to have it recorded because we talk about this, have one.
Well, and I'm totally serious, your minutes, but they were not. So. That will help or something. I'm trying to.
Another dimension that I think is discussion how. So far, this is not policy. Politics together, we're not in politics. Like, Jesus, even Harold Richie, God. That king of God was like an upside down. So far, I think Jesus was the servant leader as far as the three sides. You know. There were other, there were other, like, people who were saying.
I'm like
About that return. You know, the violence.
Right.
Next week, he was, after, like, you know, like, during the. Israel, there are other, like, movements, where there are people who are claiming they decide that they were violating the kingdom of God, if they were doing so violently. There was one thing that took place afterwards that led to the destruction of the temple, the Bar Kokhba, well, that was, you know, just some time even before that. There were various other movements, more violent movements. Yeah, Jesus, the person who, like, then, like, led to the founding of the thing that's called Christianity. It was like very much a non-violent revolutionary, and did not say that he was coming to found some kind of violent state or some kind of exclusive Christian nation state. In fact, that was not anywhere on the horizon in the gospel. There's no notion of a Christian nation state in the gospel. Even the Pauline was not really there. There's not even a notion of a nation state. But that's normal. The nation state wasn't established, so the concept of nation state didn't come along until like 1800s. But like, but it's an anachronism of its own, that like, it doesn't fit, or projecting backwards on affect stuff that it doesn't even know.
For a second.
For a long
Coming
conversation.
back, I know you guys are enjoying talking to each other. That's a great
So far as
thing.
it wasn't politics.
It is
It's definitely
always
not
point,
violent
right?
politics. It was an upside down kingdom.
Okay, so I'm gonna look back, because I'd like to share a little bit about what's going on, and also because I'm hearing as I walk around.
One group versus another.
That's just-
If you realize the sword, you will die.
All right. Hey, I'm sorry, Bill, I need you to.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
got a lot of momentum going over
There's a
here.
lot going on, and it's a tough subject. I bet we could talk about this for days and days and days.
We probably-
And if you would like to join the Journeys in Faith Committee, we would love to have you. Because if you go to those committee meetings, you get to decide how many sessions we get for different subjects, what subjects we're covering, all those kinds of things. So feel free to join us when we have meetings. They're irregular. We meet when I think I have enough to cover. But it's in the bulletin and all those kinds of things, and you can actually decide. The Journeys in Faith Committee said that this was too big of a subject to cover in one session, and we decided to do the 2 sessions. So I personally would like to cover what I would like to do is I would like to save the second question for next session. I'm guessing that many of you have shared with each other people that you know that have had the Christian national beliefs. And I'm gonna save that for next session because I think we need to be aware of how much time we have left. But I would love to hear what was going on in your groups and what you'd like to share with the entire group about question number 1. So you can have the same spokesperson or you can have a different spokesperson. I'm gonna start over here because it seemed like it was a good lively discussion. What kinds of things? Is there a spokesperson, someone in this group that wants to tell us something that they got from the group that was interesting?
Well, we could all speak, I guess.
the
Yeah,
thing
you
that I
can.
just came up with was inclusivity. Doesn't work with Christian nationalism. Right?
Right. Absolutely.
And I'll just summarize that by saying that they believe in loving one another, but for them, the one another is each other.
Yeah.
Right.
As opposed to loving one another out there.
Right.
Who is your neighbor? Yeah.
It's
Who is your
tribal,
neighbor?
tribal, it's just.
Right,
yes.
absolutely.
Good word.
That's a good thing.
Right.
Okay, any other groups that would like to talk? Things that you came up with when you were talking in group that you think would be nice to have all of us here?
I think one of the things that we kind of talked about is that this has been going on since the beginning of time. So it's not a new thing that one group would try to dominate others. It's part of life, I guess, and
But I think it is a group that's dominating now, I think. We have the right wing, which is
Yeah.
Christian nationalism.
Along
That has
that line,
absolutely nothing to do with Christianity.
Yeah.
And
And they're
they
like-
shouldn't call themselves that, nor so they shouldn't call themselves that.
Did anybody notice that Trump did not put his hand on the Bible when he took?
oh, yeah.
I don't know if he did it deliberately or he's just,
I was
Trump,
afraid to catch fire.
there you go.
Yeah.
And my sister is spending a lot of time hoping for smiting. But, we're not supposed to be on this particular political agenda, so anyway, what other teachings of Jesus and things that you could bring up? We've talked about who's your neighbor, you know? Inclusivity means a lot to Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Especially the oppressed people, right? How many times do we hear a story where Jesus has been with an oppressed person? That he wasn't supposed to, by his society's rules, be hanging out with. Right?
Well, we talked about a couple, teachings in the Bible, the Good Samaritan
Mhm.
is an example. The, throw the first stone,
Yeah.
that without sin and things like that. Again, we agree with everything everybody said, being not inclusive. They're teaching, against that, being, where we want to be inclusive. They only think about themselves, so.
Which I think comes from a lot of fear and anger.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that Todd and I have been talking about for the next session is the idea of how do we stay, if we're not even at the table, we can't even talk to any of them. There's no way to change their hearts if we're not even where we can talk to them. And so we're gonna be talking about different levels of, some of us can handle more of that perspective for longer periods than others. We all have different tolerances for how long we can do it. I can honestly tell you that my father-in-law will say things that make my blood boil. And I have to walk out of the room. Sometimes I hug him and say, I don't agree with you, but I love you anyway. And then I walk out of the room. Sometimes I just walk out of the room. I think we all have people that we could talk about that we are trying to figure out how to speak to and how to have relationships and conversations with, because there are a lot of people out there that believe some of what Christian nationalism is trying to say. And so Todd and I are gonna be doing a lot more on how to actually engage somebody who believes some of these things. In my particular case, I look at my father-in-law and I don't think I'm gonna change his mind. So there's gonna be people like that where you're gonna be like, that's not gonna happen. And there are gonna be people that maybe really could listen, and if they knew a little bit more about what was happening, they may have a change of heart. And we're gonna talk a little bit about how to handle that. In question number 2, we're gonna spend some time with that. I think I'm a little worried about keeping you guys past 12:15. I'm supposed to stay on schedule. So I think I'll move that to the next session. But the last thing I would really like you to do for me is, once again, these index cards. I'd like you to grab an index card and either as a group or as an individual, I'd like you to put on the index card what you wish were happening in the next session. Okay, questions that you have for us that you wish we'd answer.
Okay.
Things like that. I want you to help form what the next session is because don't have it completely formed yet. And if we know from you guys what you'd like to hear more about, we can spend more time working on that. And I'm hoping that you guys are picturing all these great things that we can do next session and that you're gonna give us lots of good ideas. Okay, not that we can't do it on our own, but we do want to have you, you know, maybe you're like, Carrie, you didn't give us anything practical. Or maybe it's something like, hey, I want to talk more to my friends and I don't want to talk as much to you. Right? Anything you want to say, I assure you, I have a very thick skin. I work with teenagers. So
I'm
you
just-
cannot
yeah.
insult me more than I do.
This is a political.
Oh, think about yourself. You can keep all the color squad.
You know, hey, Sunday let me out anyway. Somebody said you gotta get this guy out of here. I'm gonna make sure he gets a passing through, because otherwise my class again. That's how my teacher
Like
said.
the not.
The head guy. Still made it.
I'm sorry.
They haven't kicked me out of church yet.
Does it have three pages to it? One on the back. On the first page.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt your thoughts. My thoughts are shot.
Yeah, she said that too. Okay. I actually was got the internet for shows the paper and my photos are actually printed it across the back.
It takes it.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's like in four.
It's fun having you here. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to join the journey to Facebook.
Oh, we'd love to have you present for sure. That's great.
Let me know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Unless I'm traveling, I'm happy to try.
Oh, well, yes, yes, I have. What's up?
Born as much.
Quite some time ago, because.
So, I'm thinking of.
Oh, I'm trying to. But stop it. Because it was possible there was.
Sorry, making conversation.
My sweet friends, I want to offer a closing prayer.
Oh, I was gonna
We're
ask you.
really gonna be
formally.
so prompt about this. And that prayer is a prayer of thankfulness. That for all of the angst that's in our heart around this subject, that today, our church service has invested us with what we really need to know to be an effective missionary for love in the world. Love each other. Amen.
They will know